Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Marc Seitz on the line, and he is the founder over at Papermark. Marc, welcome to the show.
Hey Adam, great to be on.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. I definitely want to get into Papermark and really how you're helping businesses and organizations succeed. But before we do, I like to start this episode the way that I start them all with what we call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Marc, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for our entrepreneurs, just like yourself, for executives, for experts. That's what we do. Marc, what mission matters to you?
For me, it matters really the kind of bringing in open source into and making that sustainable. So open source software is typically something that a lot of, they start a project and unexpectedly it becomes super popular. And then lots and lots of other companies and users rely on this and that it works and that it continues to thrive. But all of the open source maintainers, they don't actually get paid for their work. It's kind of like a unpaid volunteer job. For something that's really critical infrastructure. And I think the mission that I set out also that we can go on later with Papermark is really making open source kind of into an attractive business model so that there are maintainers that can live sustainably off of just open source work because it's very different from the regular 9 to 5 job. And some people thrive in that environment. But that being said, there's still lots and lots of huge companies that use open source software without kind of giving back, and just amplifying that and giving open source maintainers a voice is part of a mission that I'm really passionate about. And I think that matters to me.
Man, that's awesome. What a great story. I'm curious on you. I see the term obviously founder, and I know you're an entrepreneur. Were you always an entrepreneur? Or where'd that come from?
Yeah, I started, I guess, like in college. I think what really helped was kind of my background, family background. There was always some entrepreneurial
Oh,
spirit
you're
going
legacy
on.
entrepreneur. That was in your blood, huh?
I like that term. And no, it started in college. I started tinkering, taught myself how to program. And I feel like programming was a lot like freeing because you didn't really need to rely on someone else. You didn't need a supply chain. You could just come up with an idea, build it, put it out in the world. And if all the pieces fit together, you'd have something that you could show off. And then if you could make it into a viable business model, then great. You were also making money. That's obviously the hard part, but
Yeah.
that's something that really stuck with me. And I've worked with amazing companies as well. I've started now with 2 companies, Papermark being my second. And yeah, I think the great part about being an entrepreneur is you don't ever want it to stop. So I want Papermark to just run for as long as possible. I can't even think about working on something else at the moment or for the next 10 years for that matter. And I think that's, once you achieve that in a company, that's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just that bliss. It's just perfect.
How'd you get the idea for Papermark? Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, it's kind of the amalgamation of like all the experiences I had leading up to this point. So for my first company, we were out fundraising and we used a platform called DocSend. And it was great at the time. This was like early 2010s. And then I had kind of like gone out and worked with like a fund. And then I seen a lot of other things. And eventually I spent more time in the open source space, like I mentioned, and saw how kind of like open source individuals struggled, kind of like making a sustainable living. With that purpose, I started Papermark as an open source project first, because I wanted to experiment on myself, on my own company, at being that maintainer in the open source space. Is it possible to create a like sustainable business model? And Papermark is a document sharing and secure data rooms platform that helps teams basically skip the traditional email attachment stuff and just put a document behind a secured link so that you control who actually sees your data room or your document, and you can track exactly who's kind of like viewing your pitch or your sale or your proposal. And that was just everything that we kind of like doing up to this point as an open source project. And then more and more kind of like companies came up to us and said, hey, we were looking exactly for like a solution like this. Can we give you money? And that's how the business kind of started. And I know it's kind of, that's not how it usually works, but
I'm not mad
it's
at it
definitely
though.
great.
Come on, that's great.
No. Yeah,
So
100%.
how did you, and you partly answered my question possibly with what you just said, but I just want to get a little bit more specific. How did you know that, and it could have been that, by the way, one company said, hey, can we give you money because we want this? But I want to go a little bit further. Like, how did you know this was going to be more than just a side project? And like you described it, where, you can't think of doing anything else maybe for the next decade or who knows how long, right? Like, how did you know that? And because I'm curious, because as entrepreneurs and just entrepreneurial people, we got a lot of ideas, a lot of different things. But when you find that one that you're really going to focus on, I'm curious on how you knew.
Yeah. So I think what helped right off the bat was when I launched, it was loud and I decided to launch just before I built even anything. I just put out a tweet. I said I wanted to do this. I think the time is right. And it resonated with I think 30,000 people that were
Oh,
viewing that
wow.
tweet, thousands that liked it. It's still a really good measure of
Oh,
like direction, right? Like
and
how
that's
good
rare.
is the
That's
market that
rare.
you
Like,
want to
I don't,
gain?
like, you knew that the market responded to that. To me, that's rare what you just said. Like, that's a big indicator. That's awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And then I put out an MVP because, people wanted this. So I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
give it that to them as fast as possible. And after like about a week, I put out the launch post. Hey, here's the product, exactly what you asked for. And that resonated like three times as much. So I think it got like 100,000 views or something.
Wow.
And yeah, that kind of put me on the right track. Like it gave me that motivation to continue chucking along
Mm.
on like nights and weekends. And eventually it got so motivating building in public that I didn't even think it was like a really nice relief for myself, like both intellectually and like building something with users that I didn't even think about like is this going to be a business or a side project? It just was fun, I think.
Mm.
And then once the commercial side kicked in, I started understanding that, okay, there were more and more people coming. They requesting features. They were happy to pay for that. And once the commercials kicked in, I understood, okay, this is a business and we need to turn this from a side project to a proper company.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there were like just small interactions with early customers that came from either legacy providers or
Mm-hmm.
that came from that may knew me or they know my open
Yeah.
source work, but they were generally surprised and like motivating me to continue building this because they wanted to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt really close to what I was doing before, the experience that I had in raising money in my previous company, because a lot of the early customers were kind of using Papermark to fundraise.
Mm.
Because it's the ideal way to put a pitch deck behind a link you share it with an investor. The investor looks at it, you see exactly when the investor, how long the investor spends on your team slide or your product slide, when they drop off, whether they actually show interest or not, which you don't really get if you just send a blank PDF and into the void and they never reply to you.
Mm.
So that really helped. And then, yeah, I think the rest is just, it keeps tagging on. So great feedback from early customers and
Man,
early
that's a great,
users.
what a great story. And why do you think this thing it gained so much steam so fast? Like if there was what do you think it was a feature? Do you think it was obviously you were solving a need in the market, but what if there was some magic there? Like what do you think the competitive advantage was maybe versus some other solutions?
Mm. Yeah, so I think definitely the big differentiator early on was the open source aspect. So
Mm.
Papermark started as an open source project. That
Hmm.
means that not only were we building in public and sharing actively our timeline what we're building
Yeah.
in order to be feature complete with the incumbents, but also the source code was available, so you could see exactly and keep us accountable. Right? Are we delivering what we're promising? You could
Hmm.
see that we're not doing anything sketchy or nefarious, even for an early stage project where trust in a security product is very difficult to build with companies.
Wow.
So you
Yeah.
could see exactly that we're not doing anything that we're not promising because basically we're here with our shirt open. And
That's a hard way to build, man. How does that feel? I can't imagine that. Like it's like you're letting everybody into your company meetings like at all times, right? Like
yeah,
especially for the what does
yeah,
that feel like? I'm just curious.
it
Not
actually
saying that not saying
feels,
that somebody that does the opposite is trying to do something nefarious or bad. It's just
oh
it
no,
just
of
has to
course.
be a different feeling. Like I've just never been there. I'm just curious.
It feels kind of freeing
Oh
because you're no
wow.
longer kind of held back by
Mm.
some, I don't know, like waitlist page or coming soon page or something where you and the audience that or your users have kind of like an information like advantage,
It's
right?
almost
You
like an
have the
understanding,
information.
huh? It's an understanding too. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows
It's a
everything at all
commitment. Yeah.
times. Correct.
Wow.
Even the things that are not published yet, people will see what's in the pipeline that's being published very soon. Whereas if you are running a project management in Linear or anywhere else,
Mm-hmm.
in Jira, that's for your company only. It's not public. It's
Mm-hmm.
no one will ever know until that is live to that customer, and then hopefully they will find it because you'll send an email or something, or they discover it on your product. But with Papermark, because of the open source aspect, we were able to build trust very early on, and because of the different touch points that we had with our users already. So yeah, that was a huge relief. And I think that was also the source of kind of most of the traffic, just because
Mm-hmm.
people were hungry for a new approach to kind of the proprietary software that was being built or that's kind of dominating the market that we were entering.
Man, Mark, this is a great story. I love it. I'm glad to have heard it and to bring this to my audience as well, and also to bring the Papermark, to bring the solution to my audience as well. That being said, great having you on. How do people follow up? I know there's much more that you have and much more that Papermark has. If people want to learn more about the product, how do they do that? How do they connect?
Yeah, they can go to papermark.com. They can also find me on X or LinkedIn. Marc Seitz on LinkedIn or on X. It's MFTS0. But yeah, papermark.com. We do have a free version. It's perfect for like early stage founders raising capital or sales teams sharing proposals,
Mm.
and then higher up in the kind of like M&A due diligence workflows as well. Yeah, papermark.com.
Wonderful. For everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can just click on the links and head right on over, check out Papermark. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Daily, each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new interviews, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So we don't want you to miss a thing. We have a lot of great interviews lined up. So hit that subscribe or follow. And Marc, man, appreciate all you do. Thanks for coming on and sharing that story.
Thanks, Adam. It was a blast.